Mr. Draghi, you've explained quite convincingly, I think, the necessity of your QE program to maintain the euro currency if, with such unnatural countries forming together a single currency, one needs to take remarkable measures, and of course this has come at great cost for the Netherlands, our pension savings, our businesses, our savings in general, our economic growth. And this is why in the Netherlands now we have an increasing number of people doubting whether we should continue staying in the Eurozone. And this is what brings me to my question. You've said in January that any country leaving the Eurozone must settle the bill first regarding Italy's possibilities of leaving the Eurozone. As we in the Netherlands now have a surplus in the Target 2 system of around 100 billion euro, does this, by your own words, mean that if the Netherlands decides to leave the Eurozone, which is one of the key points of my party's program, we would get back 100 million euro from the southern countries in the Eurozone, according to your views? Mr. Draghi.
Thank you. Let me respond to you as I have responded to similar questions in the European Parliament. The euro is irrevocable, and this is the treaty. I will not speculate on hypotheses that have no ground in the present treaty. Second, the euro has been a success for the Eurozone and especially for countries like the Netherlands. As I mentioned before, you had an economic situation, thanks, I should say, first and foremost, to your strength, to the way to the quality of your laws, to the fact that your business environment is growth-friendly, to your own merits, but also to the support of our monetary policy. You had an economic situation which was rarely so good. But also there is a deeper reason, and there is a deeper reason why the euro has benefited all countries, but especially countries that are strong, export-oriented, with high productivity, and a business-favorable legal environment. The euro has protected the single market. Most of you are too young to remember the 80s and the early 90s, when we had periodic devaluations of all countries, and there was a strong instability there. Neither price stability was there, nor the better countries, which were stronger, could actually see their merit rewarded, because there were continuing devaluations robbing them from their merit. Now, the single market was a major achievement towards our integration, but it was also an achievement that has increased our prosperity, our collective prosperity. And the single market cannot be protected other than with one currency, with irrevocably fixed exchange rates. And that's why the euro came into consideration in the early 90s and was finally found its place in the Maastricht Treaty. So I think if we remember the experience of those years, we should have no doubts about the euro being a success. And also legally, I made the point before. Thank you.
Well, clearly we can disagree about the merits of the euro currency, and my view is that in non-euro countries the economic situation is significantly better. But just one point, you said you didn't want to speculate about the possibility of the eurozone falling apart, but isn't that precisely what you did in January when you were saying if Italy leaves, it will have to settle the bill? You were actually speculating about the breaking apart of the eurozone, and wouldn't it be intellectually fair to have the same principles if the Netherlands decides to leave?
In the European Parliament, I was asked the same question about that. I said one can have technical answers of all kinds, but the point is the euro is irrevocable, and I'm not going to speculate on hypotheses that have no ground whatsoever.
We'll see about that then.
We'll see about that, for sure.
Thank you. The next question is for Mr. Baudet.
Yes, Mr. Draghi, the Monetary Authority of Singapore has researched 69 monetary unions that were dissolved since the end of the Second World War. It found that remarkably little macroeconomic volatility happened around the time of currency union dissolutions. I'm sure they were all irrevocable until the moment they turned out not to be. Moreover, throughout history, we haven't seen a single instance of monetary union that didn't necessitate over time political union. If you believe the euro is here to stay, if you still support the single currency in Europe, does this imply that you are a supporter and perhaps believe it's necessary for the Eurozone to develop into a political union, a full political union over time?
Thank you. Well, first of all, let me just remind ourselves about what we call the Eurobarometer, namely that poll that's been made, and the last poll we have is last autumn, still shows a support for the euro in the Eurozone around 70%, and on average, and it's over 50% in all countries.
But 56% of the Dutch would prefer a future outside of the EU, another opinion poll showed.
I'm sorry, I'm quoting the Eurobarometer now. Second point is basically that, as I said, if you ask the ECB president, he will tell you that the euro has been a success. And so it's only a matter of time for the citizens of the Eurozone, all citizens, because 70% already understand that, but the others will soon acknowledge the benefits of this. Third, last week, 10 days ago, I've been invited to give a speech at the Jean Monnet Foundation. On that occasion, I had the opportunity to read some of his writings. In his view, there was no doubt that the sequence is single market, single currency, political union. And that's still the case. But is it tomorrow? No. When is it? We don't know. Why? Because you need to satisfy the two conditions, namely trust in the compliance with the rules, trust in the compliance with the governance of the Eurozone, and convergence. We can't have a union with divergent countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And excuse me, just let me add, and we can't have a union where you have permanent debtors and permanent creditors. There has to be convergence. Thank you.